But first, let's start off with an old friend of mine, Fred Reiss, a comedian, former radio personality, and an author of several books, who just happens to have won his battle against cancer. It's the second time Fred has faced cancer, and Today Cancer, Tomorrow the World is the book he wrote about it. Fred's here to talk to us. Welcome.
Thank you. I was diagnosed with cancer for the second time. First, I had testicular cancer when I was 27, and then again at 57, I had testicular cancer again. And I had to go to the Stanford Cancer Center. My tumor was 4 pounds. They couldn't see the rest of my organs. And the book kind of chronicles ways to fight cancer, because you go through something, you see a lot of suffering of people, and I thought of different ways that you can have more of an upbeat way to take on cancer instead of falling down and feeling sorry for yourself.
You know, Norman Cousins did a thing about taking on health issues with humor. Maybe you were chosen for this. Walk us through the process when you first found out you had cancer for the second time.
When I found out, the first thing I did, actually, I went down to Pleasure Point to look at the ocean because that always gave me strength. I surfed a lot, and I wanted to be close to things that inspired me and gave me a life. And then I actually rented the DVD of Rocky, and I didn't want to see just a victory, where he wins. That wasn't what meant anything to me. It was when he throws that very first punch. Apollo Creed doesn't think that Rocky has anything in him, and he's cocky, and he thinks he's just going to take him out without any resistance. And then out of nowhere, very early in the round, Rocky unleashes this uppercut and takes him out. And I said, I have to be that punch. Mm-hmm. Every second of every day, I have to be the feeling and emotion of that punch, because cancer's trying to take me out, and I have to hit it with everything I have, simultaneously, with the best of my personality, with all my life, with all my humor, whatever I have, whatever I can pull, whatever rabbit I can pull out of the hat, I'm throwing in its face.
So we followed, you on Facebook and some of the things you were doing, and the changes you went through. You lost your hair.
Yeah.
You got pretty darn sick, and you got pretty darn weak. So you're saying you got to hit it hard.
Except that you go into chemo. Chemo's going to take 2 punches on you, and you're going to get 1 punch in on cancer. So you have to say, I can rope a dope. I'm here. This is not happening to me. I chose this. I chose to get chemotherapy. I chose to fight the disease. I'm not a victim. I chose to go through the pain, not being able to eat, the sores in my mouth, and I'm coming out of this. They're not stopping me from coming after you.
You had a choice. Did you think about not going through chemo?
Never even occurred to me. I mean, Steve Jobs, to his everlasting regret, regretted going through the holistic thing.
Right.
And I always tell people, chemo's a poison. These idiots who've never had cancer always have these theories, take these chemicals or plants. And, the thing is, what's funny is they're against chemistry, but chemistry also makes vitamins, too.
That's a good point.
It's like, but for them, it's okay. But I don't think so. I'm going to the Stanford Cancer Center, and I'm going to take it on.
So did you write the book while you were going through the process, or did you wait until you were out the other side?
No, I was right in the midst of it. All of a sudden, I was an antenna. A lot of things were coming into my head, images, voices. If you live the right life, and I'm not trying to be egotistical about this. I came out to California when I first had cancer when I was 27. I wanted to surf. I'd do stand-up comedy. I really wanted to change my life. And I stuck with those things, and I struggled with those things. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but because of that, I met a lot of great people who became very good friends. So I had a strong life going in there. And these people were my caregivers who drove me to the hospital, took care of me, so that when I walked into chemo, I was at the head of a 1,000,000-man march. They were propulsion for me. So I had that energy. But when I first was diagnosed, I said, I have to see how many people have been in an infusion center. They call it infusion. They don't call it chemo. Uh-huh. They call it BMT. They don't call it blood marrow transplants. I mean, everything it's not, the signs aren't pretty,
sure.
But they're concealed. But I said, the first day before I go into chemo, I want to see what it is. And I walked through and, I was bummed out. I see people gaunt and weak, half asleep, a woman laying in bed, one of the side offices, her wig's a little off and she's bald. And I went, the one thing I got out, I said, I will never lay down for cancer. As weak as I am, I will never lay down for this disease. But I was still bummed about the situation. And then I had to reconstitute myself. And I thought, I have to, and then when I came back for treatment, I said to this guy Mars, his name was Mars, who was taking my blood and giving me samples. I said, I made a mistake. I looked at this the wrong way. I said, I look at this place now as a gym. It's a fitness center, and chemo is my workout machine, and it's to get me stronger. Everything in here is to get me stronger. So when I walked in, I accepted my hair My hair was falling out, and I said, I'm not going to watch myself melt. That's how I felt. It's pretty tough to lose your hair, you know. So, you know, so what I thought, I said, you know, I'm taking control of this. I'm going into a battle. I have to put on battle gear. I'm shaving my head. I am in another world. There's the world of healthy, and there's the world of sick. That's kind of what Today, Cancer, Tomorrow, the world book talks about. And so you're in another world for a while. And people say, oh, you know, you sound positive, Fred. That's very positive. But there's nothing positive about fighting cancer, because you can't be positive, because if you're positive, you allow for a negative to exist. And if you want to survive, you can't have negatives. So in other words, it's like, I would always tell people, you've seen the documentaries where a zebra is in the mouth of a lion, and the lion has flat eyes, and the zebra is still alive. And cancer is that lion, and you're that zebra. And I'm going to tell you something. If you can get out of that lion's mouth, you know what you're going to come back as? One lion-eating zebra. And that's what you're doing, because you say, you know what? You tried to take me down, and you get a chance at cancer. When you get a little stronger, you're going to throw it down. You're going to rip it apart. You're going to stomp on it. You're going to rip its bones. You're going to tear everything about it. You're going to light it on fire. You're going to reduce it to ashes, because you tried to take me down. Now I'm taking you out. There's no mercy for you. And so that's how and there's nothing positive about that. That's total survival. But you can't live like that, you know, in the healthy world. But when you're in the world of cancer, you're always like walking through this jungle, say, whatever comes after me, I'm taken down. I don't care. You're not going to take me, period.
Now, if I'm listening to this and maybe I'm battling cancer, I'm looking for answers, it sounds like a lot of what you did was psychological.
I'd have to say so. Well, the thing is, in Today, Cancer, Tomorrow, the world, and a lot of reasons I wrote it is that I really think I have something to say to help people that are caregivers, because once you go through cancer, if you have any kind of soul, you see a lot of suffering around you. So you don't just think of what cancer did to you. That's selfish. You know, I didn't deserve this. That's anger going the wrong way. You have to be bad at cancer. But the thing is, you have to, you see this suffering, go, how can I help the next guy or woman? What can I give them that I learned so that they might experience less pain? Can I give them the edge? And so all you have is your life when you walk in there. Those are the tools of your life. And so I divided myself. I said, who do I have? What does Fred have? I said, well, I'm 57 years old. I have 57 Freds inside me. So I went to all those 57 Freds like I was having a meeting, and I said, tell me about your life, what you thought, what you saw, who were the girls you were in love with, who were the people, you know, what was the music you had? So I loaded myself up with music from every era of my life. I tried to remember everything each little Fred did. I kind of talked to them, so what do you think of this? Did I get you this far? You know, and that was my strength. That was my army, and all the loves and losses and friends and ambitions and dreams, they were all tied up with these people. I said, that is all I have to fight it. Cancer has a lot of strains. So if I can outnumber the strains of cancer in my body with all the personalities, my dreams, and the loves of my friends, that was the only weapon I had. And that's the only weapon anyone has. Because, you know, these people go, oh, life is a dream. I say, oh, okay, if life is a dream, then let's follow your logic. Then death is a wake-up call. You know? So it's like, pardon me, yoga breath. You know, I'm out there, I'm swinging it. I'm a zebra looking for a lion. Don't tell me about the other stuff.
So it wasn't just Fred against the world.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't against the world. It was against cancer. You know, and they were the force of my life. Your friends and the people that you know and your memories is the life that you created. That's your canvas, and that's all. Like I said, that's all you have. So you draw on them, and you're grateful to them. I mean, when I got upset, and you know, cancer tears are different tears. You know, like. You know, I learned that, you know, tears of grief and pain are salty, but tears of joy and love are warm. So those are the tears I would get when I was getting chemo, and I thought of all the people that really cared for me. I was more upset about all these people that were in my life that I was going to lose. I wasn't really that concerned about myself that much. I mean, I wanted that. So that's my life. All these people, you know, from being in radio or doing stand-up or writing the books or surfing, and the friends I met and making wine, making some of my own wine and doing the Santa Cruz Mountains thing. I said, all that is what is going to get me out of here. And so you just kind of, cancer, like I says, it metastasizes, so it keeps on growing, so you have to metastasize the other way. Cancer technically is something that doesn't listen to anyone and is very selfish and basically just grows inside you without any limitations. So, and it's on a suicide mission. It takes you out and then it dies when you die.
Now, I remember, though, postings from you on your Facebook page.
Right.
And at points, you had doubts, you had questions, you were facing results, and you weren't sure how the results were going to turn out. What were those days like?
What it is when you're dealing with cancer, you know, everyone's on life's highway. You know, they're taking pictures of themselves. They're talking about Wednesday and, you know, hump day and vacations, and that's a foreign language to you then. And all you're on a road that has a toll gate, and you have to pull off the road and you have to throw your hope in a basket, and the toll gate's shaped like a CT scan or a PET scan, or like a front-loading dryer. That's what they look like. And the gate's down, and you have to wait for those results to see if you're going to get back on the highway.
Right.
And and that's usually kind of, the tears start coming when you're in there. They just roll it, and it's cancer. Like I said, you're not sobbing like, oh. I mean, your face is straight, and the tears just dribble out. And in the book, I say, I knew what that was. It was my soul sweating. And that's tough. But you go, I will not let you in, because the worries of death. I mean, it's a very big thing. And I'd say to myself, I don't want to get sick again. I don't want to get sick again. And then I said, look, no, I'm thinking like I'm giving cancer credit. I can't let this thing in. I'm not listening to it. I'm going to get out of here. I'm taking you down. So, but there's fear, because it could be game over. Mm-hmm. But, all you can do is fight it that way, because you can't help if the body is cellular. They're made up of cells, and there's a cell inside you that's like an alien that wants to take you out.
So the average person who has cancer, and you're an average person who had cancer, maybe slightly exceptional, who had cancer, right. You find out about it, you've got your provider, you've got your maybe doctor in your corner, you've got your family that kind of steps up, you've got the medical establishment and all they know, so you've got chemo coming and that sort of thing.
Right.
So on top of all that, are you saying that it's good to have all that, but what you have is the extra ingredient, what you went through, what you learned is something that people can stack on top of the pile when they want to fight?
Yeah, I really believe that, with Today, Cancer, Tomorrow, the World. I mean, like I said, I have it out there for 99 cents as an ebook. So there are people that are broke that I'm just trying to help. Mm-hmm. And I have it as a paperback as well. That's to help me, because, you get blown off, the world financially. It's tough. But, the thing is like, for example, the other thing you're fighting is oncologists. Oncologists have no people skills, as a rule. They don't see you as a human being. They sometimes look at the disease. So you have to have this term, advocate for your own care. And so you can't cure yourself, but you can alleviate your suffering, because you do get nauseous, you do get nerve damage, they call it neuropathy. It's like, and so you have to make them do certain things to say, this is what I want. And you never forget that no matter how smart they are or how arrogant they are, they still work for you. And I crossed swords with my oncologist a few times, and she was saying, "Oh, we're not going to do that." And I said, don't I have a say in this?"
But you need her too. You may disagree with her. You may want to be the boss of her, but you need her, right?
All right. You have to be. You like I said, you can't cure yourself, but you can. But sometimes like for example, my oncologist never called me at home to see how I was doing. My oncologist never came to chemo when I was getting chemo, and when I was getting chemo at the Stanford Cancer Center, I never saw any oncologist come up there. The nurses are spectacular, so they would say, "Oh, well, you can't expect oncologists to take their work home," And I said, "You know what? I take their work home. I'm sitting there. I can't even focus. I'm half nauseous. I can't eat. I got sores in every part of my body. Yeah, they should take some of me home too. They should remember me." So, yeah, but you have to remind them that they have a commitment to you as a person, and that you're alive. And that has to be acknowledged. The force of your life has to be acknowledged. You are not just a disease. Cancer doesn't have you. You have cancer. You're supposed to both be looking at that disease together to be swinging at it. You shouldn't. But sometimes they have all the answers, and you go in there, and you have to ask the questions. Now, why should you ask the questions? They have the answers to the test. They know all the side effects of chemo. They know how to prevent some of them. They know how to minimize your sores. They can hydrate your chemo, so maybe you suffer from less neuropathy, which is nerve damage. And so you have to bark at that. You go, are you going to do that? They have the facts, but they do not volunteer them like they should. A good example that I highly recommend anyone going through chemo is get a medical port. It's a little thing they insert under your skin. It's an 1.5 hour operation. And so basically it's a extension cord for all the needles. So instead of getting jabbed with needles in your arms,
right.
And I hated that. I mean, it's like a spider with splinters digging into your veins. Horrible. I said, I can't. I mean, I had to go through chemo 5 days a week, 8 hours sitting in a chair. For 4 weeks. And that's pretty, and for other people who have much more complex cancers, I mean, that's almost like daycare, but what I went through, but it's still powerful. But to have a port, I wasn't getting needles. They just hooked me up. And it's like, but my oncologist did not tell me about a port. I had to find out for myself. So my advice is just talk to somebody who's got chemo. And gone through it, but get to them first before you go to an oncologist.
No, it's your fight. You're the one who has to get in the ring and do the fighting.
Right. That's kind of, it's an odd metaphor, but I went in the hospital. I wore boxing gloves. I had them take pictures of me with boxing gloves, punching the chemo. I'd hold up the chemo like I was drinking it as a joke. But if I can help other people, and I've done that, by talking to them, and you see how much it means to them, and they have a smile going into chemo, and go like, all right, for Today, Cancer, Tomorrow, the World, maybe that can help them.
All right, Fred, thanks.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Coming up next on